Hello! The winner of this year's International Booker Prize is going to be announced next week, so I'm here to give my thoughts and opinions about who I think and who I hope will win this year's award. And if you've been reading books that have been listed for this year's prize and have thoughts on them and who you hope and want to win this year's award, or if you've just been following this award from the outside and want to make a random guess about who the winner is going to be, I would love to hear about that in the comments below. Now, I've not been following this season's prize all that closely, and so I've been playing catch up a bit in the past week with books that have been shortlisted, and of course that's been easier to do with this year's shortlist because famously many of these books are quite short. Some of them are just between 100 and 150 pages long. I think the longest book on the shortlist is almost 280 pages of Under the Eye of the Big Bird. And so a lot of these are very fresh in my mind, and I have not completed reading all of them because a couple of them have been DNFs for me. And I think the winner is really difficult to pick this year because I've also read from the long list of Solenoid and Hunchback, and I think these books are excellent, but they've not made the shortlist, and I definitely prefer these over some of the books that have been shortlisted. And so that says to me that with the judges of this year's prize, it's quite unpredictable of which way they are going to go, or at least difficult to predict for me and my reading tastes of what they might select as the winner. But I want to pick out and discuss first my three top books from the shortlist, which are Under the Eye of the Big Bird, On the Calculation of Volume Book 1, and Small Boat. And I do think all three of these books are really great, and I would be happy to see any of these books win because Under the Eye of the Big Bird is I mean, it's structurally it's very different from many other novels I've read, and so was really innovative in that way. But the way that it shows the progression or destruction of the human race over a long period of time, I think is so creative and really bent my mind, especially in how humanity becomes melded with technology over time. And I just thought that was all done so well. And then with On the Calculation of Volume, the way that this looks at human experience in our lives and our relationship with time through this unique way of representing a character who is caught in a time loop and experiencing the same day over and over again. I thought it was so impactful. I mean, some people found this novel quite repetitious, and but I found it's the way it represents the progression of its character over time, or actually no, not her progression, but the way that she kind of breaks down over time and becomes more desperate as she's caught in this time loop and can't escape it, reveals different ways of looking at our experience, both symbolically but also actual lived experience, especially if you're someone that is getting older and is experiencing time in a slightly different way from how you experienced it when you were younger. And I don't know if she's going to be able to carry on and discuss this in such a compelling way throughout 7 volumes that are planned for this series. But I've heard very good things about volume 2 from other people that have continued on reading it, and so it's made me very eager to get to that as well. And with the novel Small Boat, the way that it presents this experience of a human tragedy, and but to both critique and interrogate someone who was really their last line of help, and was the operator on the phone for these migrants who were at sea on a small vessel that was sinking, and rather than responding to their desperation, became impatient with them. And the way this interrogates both that operator, but also becomes a larger interrogation of how we respond to tragedies like this, I thought was so effectively done. So yes, all three of these books I think are really excellent. It'll be really difficult it's difficult for me to choose which I think will win, but I do have hope for which one I want to win. But the other three books that have been listed for the prize, I mean, Perfection, I really appreciated a lot of aspects of it, and I found it largely an enjoyable and engaging experience. But then I did have some issues with, I felt, the slightly limited way that the author was presenting modern experience, and I feel like he could have done more on it. Although it'd be really exciting to see translator Sophie Hughes win the International Booker Prize, because she has been nominated 5 times before, more than any other translator that has been nominated for this prize, and so has become, you know, the so-called bridesmaid of the prize. And so it'd be really great to see her get recognition, but of course it's just for the work and not for her body of work. And then with the other two books, Heartlamp and A Leopard Skin Hat. Sadly, I haven't finished reading these books because I got quite frustrated with them both for different reasons. So with Heartlamp, with these short stories that are representing Muslim women and girls' experience in southern India, and I've read 2 stories in this collection, and I thought they were both quite interesting, but there was so much density of detail in them. It took me a long time, and lots of different characters. It took me a long time to really understand fully everything that was going on in the stories, and I got quite impatient with it, and I felt like there were lots of references that I was missing out on because I'm just not familiar with them. And of course, reading international literature is part of the joy of it, of finding out about different cultural experience and lived experience in places in the world other than that I'm familiar with. And so I'm glad for that reason, but there's a kind of point when it feels so disorientating that I really don't understand what's going on. And maybe if I read this and the rest of the stories all the way through multiple times, as the judges for this award will have read these books at least 3 times, that maybe it would sink in a lot more. But yeah, just reading it as a casual reader, I got kind of too frustrated to want to carry on reading it. And based on the experiences of other readers that I've read it all the way through, who have commented that really the earlier stories are the best stories, or at least that's the opinion I've heard the most, and that kind of demotivated me from wanting to continue reading on. And then with A Leopard Skin Hat, this is a book that I actually started reading last year when it was first published, but soon stopped because I grew frustrated with the style of the narration, and feeling like there was a lack of clarity in the details of it, and understanding the relationship between the narrator and the man writing this story, and a close friend of his, a woman who is experiencing a lot of mental difficulty, and I felt like, yeah, I couldn't really get into either that relationship or understanding that experience from what I'd read so far, and I grew too frustrated with the story that, yeah, I just really didn't want to continue with it. And I did try to start reading it again, but felt quite quickly the same frustrations again. And but again, maybe this is a story that if I really dedicated myself to it and read it all the way through multiple times, then it would have more resonance and meaning. But, you know, we as readers always have to negotiate that thing of like, how much time are we going to actually give a book, even though we're not enjoying or feel like we're getting anything out of the experience. And sometimes that pays off by really dedicating ourselves to a book, and sometimes it doesn't. So maybe if one of these books wins, I will try to go back and read them all the way through. But for the moment, yeah, I'm not too keen on. So who do I think is going to win this year's prize? I think it's really a toss-up between, these three books that I've picked as my top. But the one that I am hoping will win, I think, is Under the Eye of the Big Bird, which I think is probably a controversial choice, because I read this with my online book club, and there were some readers in our group who really didn't enjoy the experience and found it frustrating. But personally, I found it so enlivening, and so it made me think about our culture and where the human race is going in such a different way, but also the way a novel can be written and formed, and how and giving a different understanding of character, of certain characters, that from story to story they might not be the same characters, or they are the same characters, but they're a genetically duplicated version of that character. So how much of that character's essential being is still there, and how much is renewed. And there's so much about this book that I've continued to ponder and think about, and that's haunted me and stayed with me. And so, yeah, I would really love to see this novel win, but I would also be very happy for Small Boat or On the Calculation of Volume to win this year's award. But again, I would love to hear in the comments below, what do you think about this year's shortlist as a whole, and who are you hoping or maybe expecting to see this year's win this year's award? Let me know about that in the comments below. And I've been very lucky to have been invited to this year's ceremony again, so I'll try to do a vlog and give my instant reaction of this year's winner and take you along and try to show you behind the scenes at the ceremony. So I'm very excited for that next week, but also to find out who actually wins this year's award. So thank you for watching me discuss this year's shortlist, and I hope you're doing well and reading good things, and I will speak to you again soon. Bye-bye.